Oh no, no more ho-ho-hoing. Wow. Ooh, damn. He gonna feel that one tomorrow. Kick him off the map. Damn.
Hey, stop! Why? I just don't get it. I always catch you fuckers watching this sick shit. This is sickening.
Hello everyone, it's your host, SethTheProgrammer. With me today, I have my good old chap, Chuck the Cyber Cuck. How's it going?
Pretty good.
Most basic. So yeah, today's video will be essentially talking about, not really talking, more like a rant on the anti-power scaling community. There's, in this community we have, I guess this is about talking about Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Super, especially Dragon Ball Super. People that make Dragon Ball Z content usually don't really do this. But there's people in this community who make sensationalist content with no value, whose clear objective is to swoo people that are beta orbiting around their feminine charm, or their clickbait, or sensationalist content, as I said. There are some people who make reviews the second an episode comes out with a single frame of animation.
And make it longer than the episode itself.
And that's all they do, right? There's people who react to entire episodes. They put the entire episode in the video, makes Toei hate the community because they're stealing their fucking animation, and all they're doing is going, "Oh damn!" to everything that happens in the episode. Or they're just looking pretty because, some people live on recruit difficulty. Also, there's people in the community that blatantly steal and retrace animation and make money off of it.
And they call it animation.
See guys, this is what happens when I can't trace.
Toei strikes videos, thinks people stealing content, makes alts to attack the community, even memes us in their manga. Then there's people that blatantly only talk about spoilers, or just, spoil content for people, or just talk about just blatantly clickbaity things that clearly didn't happen, like, oh, Broly's new power, and they show a character like Broly with fucking Super Saiyan Rose, and act like he's gonna be in Dragon Ball Super or something, right? And then these same people have the audacity to claim that people who study applicable philosophy, science, debate, and writing consistency and narrative are the problem. People who make content that requires an intelligent critique are the problem.
And probably a lot more time in editing and researching instead of just putting on a thumbnail and just talking for 20 minutes about stupid shit.
Yeah.
So,
power scaling is the problem with the community. Now, that's clearly wrong for many fucking reasons, and it's very clear that most of these people do it out of contrarians because, I'll be honest, I'll admit it, me and Chuck have kind of made negative stigma for power scaling because...
But at least we're right.
Because we're not Disney enough, right? So a lot of people get this negative stigma. They love the idea, yeah, fuck power scaling, get on with those bastards, And it's like, facts don't care about your feelings at all. I don't give a fuck what you think about power scaling. I care about the facts behind the matter, and I want to slap every one of these skeptic, pseudo-intellectual contrarians on this matter. I want to obliterate them. I'm going to be calling them out as well. I'm going to be calling out many weird, scandalous fucking things they like to do. Because, people have been reaching out to me on Twitter. They're like, dude, this is ridiculous. Why is power scaling get such a bad rap? Why are people misinterpreting what it really means? So I'm going to be calling that out. And, Chuck, why don't you start us off?
So there is a stigma within the community that power levels are bullshit, that they don't mean anything, they're unreliable. And TFS made light of this meme several years ago, which, was probably funny at the time, but some people took it to the next level and they tried to interpret it as the official law that apparently Toriyama himself said. And there are some people, like
Vegito EX,
that try to coat their headcanon with words that Akira Toriyama himself never said or mentioned. They try to validate themselves as an authority on the series. When, one, they don't even have an official license on the series itself. They never had any judgment call on how the series should be written. So why is their fucking opinion put out there for people to use as a source? It makes no sense. It's almost as bad as the One Punch Man fanboys are like, well, one stated that Saitama could punch with the force of a Big Bang. It's like Goku's voice actor in the English dub, but he was like, trying to justify that Goku Black should have a British voice magically when he turns into Rose. It's like, oh yes, Goku Black is gonna magically have a British voice when he turns into Rose. It's like, when did we ask or beg for this headcanon to be implemented into the series? Or why would he even imply that Goku would be omnipotent or something?
Yeah, Sean said Goku was omnipotent with God Key.
Artistic license!
Yeah. You can see, yeah. Sean Schemmel's a great example because he's like, oh, well, you know what? In my opinion, I think when he becomes Super Saiyan Rose, he becomes British. And it's like, yeah. And it's like, yes, contrarians inserting their headcanon over facts are the real problem in this community. Okay, but continue.
Yeah, but, I mean, power levels, you know, people are saying it's bullshit, right? But Akira Toriyama never said that or implied that he removed them because they didn't make any sense or whatever. He actually said this in an interview. For some reason, people seem to, you know, just ignore or they don't know about it. And Akira Toriyama actually said, oh, hey, look, I felt that they would actually spoil the story because if you knew that a character had a higher power level, then they would actually, you know, they would portray to the audience, oh, hey, this character would win in the end. It wouldn't be like a shock. It wouldn't be a surprise. That is the main reason why it was actually removed, not because they're bullshit. So we have actual evidence to portray, like, you know, these ideals or you know, like, to back up a statement that we say. We don't just say, explained, confirmed, with proof, finally, right? We don't put that on there, right? Because we're just higher than that. Our standards are just way too high for that. I mean, power levels can be used to portray how much stronger a character is, and people might say, oh, okay, but in the story they were portrayed to not actually mean anything. But however, there's actually a reason for this, because the characters like Krillin or Gohan, they would try to hide, like these contrarians hide to debates, but they would hide their power levels to try to, you know, not get revealed or, you know, to not be found by the enemies. And, you know, they would actually hold back like Goku would do, so he could actually take it easy on his opponents and then progressively increase his ki to fight them. When we have power levels like in the Daizenshu, we are giving their official power levels, their actual power levels when they're not holding back. You can use that for scaling. So, I mean, if you have a problem against power levels or think they're bullshit, I mean, whatever, right? Whatever. But trying to put down the power scaling community because, you know, you believe some random fucking meme or, you know, you think you're the writer or you make a video parodying, you know, power scaling like Vegito did and then pleaded ignorance that oh, I don't know who that guy is, man. I have no clue what you're talking about. For some reason, people think that power levels are power scaling, and I mean, you can use power levels to power scale, but they're not the same thing, and that's what a lot of people seem to misunderstand.
Yeah, so power levels is like an extremely basic form of power scaling. Like, it literally doesn't mean anything except for, hey, I just wanted a way to show how strong people were as a number. Like, that was the whole narrative of the power levels. It is the most basic form of power scaling you can have. This guy's number is higher than this one. This guy would more than likely beat this one in a fight. You know why that's important? Because Dragon Ball is a fucking fighting anime. It's a fighting manga, it's a fighting comic, story, whatever you want to call it. It's about fighting. Originally, it was more about the adventure, but the story started to evolve into more about fighting and power scaling when that's what started to blow up its popularity, okay? So as a writer, it makes sense that Toriyama would be worried about power scaling at a very, you know, different level. And with, you know, the Cell games, the reason he stopped using them, like Chuck said, it spoiled the fights. The levels would just become insane. I mean, even if you said Frieza was planet to star level, and then you say, oh, well, Cell and all the guidebooks and, you know, in his statements is solar system level, the power level Cell would have would be thousands to millions of times greater than Frieza, depending on how you scale him. So you can see that the power levels just between Frieza and Cell would become absolutely ridiculous. And in fact, Toriyama was even asked, you know, what's Majin Buu's power level? And he was just like, not even Majin Buu knows. So it's not that power levels never mattered. It's just that it becomes a little ridiculous when they start getting past, you know, the millions and billions and stuff like that. But when it comes to power scaling, there are a lot of skeptics about it. And they, you know, people that try to explain power scaling are always called apologists for whatever reason. Even though, you know, when we do talk about the writing, we usually say it's, you know, weird or bad. We just like to talk about consistency in terms of versus debates, because what people don't realize is power scaling is a subculture that people use to debate, especially against other fictional verses. So when we power scale Dragon Ball, especially when it's talking about feats, it's usually to extrapolate an algorithm to use against other verses, whether that be, you know, DC comics, Marvel comics, or another anime, say Naruto or something. That's literally usually what it's for. I mean, some people like to scale within the series, but it's a little bit, it's not really that big of a deal. It's not what's ruining the series or anything. People like good power scaling, especially in a combat story, because good power scaling makes the story make more sense, okay? If Goku is hyped up through the whole story, I don't know if you guys have ever seen the Cell games, but Goku not only becomes a Super Saiyan, he surpasses grade 2, grade 3, and grade 4. He's a complete monster even compared to Super Saiyans. If Krillin all of a sudden came out like he did in Dragon Ball Super and was fighting Goku after all of that, you would say, wow, that really did not make a lot of sense, okay? That's the whole point of power scaling consistency, making the story make more sense. And that's why people have a problem. Not because they're the problem of the community, but because they are thinking about it logically, all right? Thinking about something logically, you might get a negative stigma towards because maybe you like to stay in your safe space, right? But that's not what a problem is. A problem is what I mentioned at the beginning of this video. Those are the problems of a community. So there are also these skeptics. You'll see it all the time. They always talk shit about power scaling. There was Plague of Gripes. He didn't really talk too much shit about power scaling, but he does like to put my name in his mouth. And he does make some weird-ass claims, like he was trying to debunk the whole Jiren was greater than time feat. He's like, oh, well, you know, controlling time is like controlling a color. So I called him out on Twitter. You know, I tried to debate him on applicable philosophy. He ran off and blocked me, right?
Me too.
Even though that's not even power scaling, that's just applicable philosophy, like science. Still want to debate it, right? There was Laughing Stock Media. You know, he used to be a power scaler, a pretty prevalent one. And then after we debunked him for saying Super Saiyan Rose was 1.2 times go base level.
And then claim that Roshi is comparable to base Goku.
then he started, you know, throwing shade. Oh, well, you know, people that power scale are just apologetics, you know, they apologize for the series. It's like, okay, and you know, we asked to debate. Nope, won't debate. Okay. You know, the people like MozillaVulpix, you know, power scaling is the problem. Imagine if no one power scaled. Imagine how much happier the community would be. And I'd be like, no, that's not at all how it works. That's just you appealing from ignorance.
That's just an argument from emotion.
Yeah, it's an argument from emotion. And you're also, you know, like I said, it's usually an argument from ignorance because they don't understand the subculture. They want to debate. None of them will. They won't debate you on why power scaling shouldn't matter. And in fact, there is like kind of a new guy around. I don't know how much he's going to blow up or not. I don't even know if I should mention him or not. Maybe he'll become like irrelevant fucking tomorrow, you know, whatever.
Power scaling isn't like supposed to explain why or how a character got stronger. We're trying to make sense of how it can make sense according to the story or logically which character will be stronger than the other. We know Kefla getting more powerful is retarded. We know, you know, Frieza training in a couple months and getting to blue level is pretty questionable. Several of these other characters are shown to just, you know, get to God level, right?
They like blame us for the bad writing. Like,
I mean, we have problems with it. Doesn't mean we can't try to explain like how it could make sense in the series. But I mean, it's not our job to like justify it. I mean, do you really think we're gonna justify something that like you know is probably trying to strike us? You know, for putting their work in
thanks
there.
to
you
reacting
know,
channels. But yeah, basically, there's this one channel. I think his name's Pinwheel or something. He made a video. You know, why power scaling arguments are bullshit, and essentially what he said is, well, you know, scaling the series is dumb because power levels, and he said, oh, you know, Super Saiyan is just a plot device, right? Goku's getting beat up and he goes Super Saiyan and then he overpowers the opponent. And I'm like, have you ever seen Dragon Ball? Because that's not at all how it works. Even the first time he went Super Saiyan versus Frieza, he still had a very intense fight. Like, he didn't just beat the hell out of Frieza, and he's fought numerous opponents after transforming and has lost blatantly. Even as a Super Saiyan 3 versus Kid Buu, he got completely slapped, right? Transforming is not just a plot device in that sense. And the problem with saying, you know, it's just a plot device, you know, everything in Dragon Ball is just plot. Sure, it is plot, but it is us extrapolating a certain sense of the plot, which is the power of the characters. So, Super Saiyan, in all the guides, including Daizenshu, super exciting guide, Toriyama's fucking mouth himself. Well, when I was making the story, I thought Super Saiyan should be a 10 times multiplier. But you know what? Instead, I decided it should be a 50 times multiplier. Straight out of Toriyama's mouth. Not even making that up. Then, later on in Dragon Ball Super, what you think would have the worst fucking writing ever imaginable, right? The least amount of effort from this motherfucker. Toriyama says, well, I think Fusion Zamasu should be as strong as 2 Super Saiyan Blues. Toriyama, in his old bat age, is power scaling Dragon Ball Super in his own words. So when you say power scaling doesn't matter, no one thought of it, you are speaking from ignorance because you just simply do not know that these things exist. You are just ignoring evidence because there's so much more evidence that power scaling does exist than there is that it doesn't exist. Just because you don't agree with how a character got powerful doesn't mean that the concept itself doesn't matter. Writing is what determines how strong a character gets. Power scaling is the extrapolation of the differences between characters. Also, he made another comment that the Kaioken was arbitrary. Like, what?
Look at this. Somebody come look at this.
And people can't make a bunch of videos debating a bunch of trivial numbers about a show that, you know, is pretty simple for clickbait, but, you know, whatever.
Look at this. Somebody come and look at this.
The last thing I'll say in regards to power scaling, that is, with transformations. If you really want the truth about what a transformation is to Dragon Ball, it is not a sort of multiplier. Except for Kaioken, but even that number is kind of arbitrary.
Wait, what? Kaioken is arbitrary? Like, how is Kaioken arbitrary? When he says times 2, he gets twice as powerful. What the hell is so hard to understand about that? And it's like, maybe he was coming from the point, well, you see, it's hard to tell what multiplier he's using. Yet, almost every time he uses it, he either yells it out, or someone else explains what he was using. So, like, versus Hit, Kaioken times 10. Goku got 10 times more powerful. Versus Vegeta, Kaioken times 3. He probably got 3 times more powerful. So, you kind of see where I'm going with that. So the whole
1.2 to 2.1 times.
It might, I don't know, man. According to them, it's very arbitrary. We have no idea. I mean, it's up to your interpretation, dude. Times 2 could really mean times 800. We have no fucking idea. I mean, it's just up in the air at this point, for all we know.
Okay, so for example, like the comics channels as well, they're also like really against power scaling for some reason, even though some of them have actually used power scaling in their own videos. You know, not saying that right out loud, you know, like, but they're basically using it. And, you know, some of them like just really hate power scaling. They throw this shade at power scaling for like no reason, even though the video has nothing to do with it. You know, they and then when you try to debate them, they cut down. But
it's like tangents. Yeah, they go on tangents.
or they just get like a hissy fit and start insulting you. I mean, comics themselves have shown, okay, hey, this character is stronger than the other consistently. If a writer shows that a character is stronger than the other in one issue, okay, you can say, you know, whatever, that's their interpretation. But if several writers show that a character is above the other consistently, then you can say, okay, this character is probably stronger than the other one. And, you know, you can think about it like this. Let's say you have a report card, right? I've mentioned this example several times, and I've used this example against Comics Explained, and you know what his response was? Well, lol, I guess we'll just agree to disagree. So essentially no counter argument was given. So for example, say you have an A, you have 3 B's, you have a C or an F. Now you're going to say I'm an F student because I had a low end, or you're going to say I'm an A student because I had a high end, or you're going to say, okay, I've consistently gotten B's or C's, so I'm a B and C student, right? Or your mode, you know, whatever shows up the most, or, you know, your average. That is how power scaling could work in comics. You go with the consistency. I mean, yeah, I mean, sure, stupid shit can happen in comics where, you know, a character that's street level can, like, hurt someone that's, like, you know, planetary or whatever.
Yeah, if anything, comics are about the plot, not Dragon Ball.
Yeah, and not to mention that comics, I mean, there's this thing called an outlier.
Like Batman kicking the Spectre.
Outliers occur in data all the time, you know? There might be points that follow a, you know, linear path or an exponential path, and then you might have one point that's, like, randomly somewhere else. That could be attributed to error or, you know, just, like, some random shit happen, right? That is how things work. Okay, not to mention that the official like DC YouTube channel actually has used power scaling because they've said, okay, this character is this strong because they've defeated characters like this. When you're comparing someone's strength, you know, so you can say A is equal to B and B is greater than C, then you'll say, okay, A is greater than C then, right? Power scaling can also be, okay, this character has similar abilities, they have similar attributes, so they could actually do the same thing. You know, you can do that with Flash, for example. Okay, they use the Speed Force, and that can use the same abilities. And some of these comics channels have done the same thing, but apparently power scaling is bad in their own book, yet they've used it, which is really probably as ironic. It's like a PS4 fanboy showing up to like an Xbox convention.
So yeah, like the writers of Marvel and DC, they even say like, yeah, sometimes power scaling doesn't always work for our stories. Like there's obviously different writers, not everything meshes together, but you know, sometimes you can extrapolate things, or you can create things. You can create culture out of it. So obviously the official DC, you know, YouTube, you know, knows this. But with like things like Dragon Ball or Naruto or Bleach or whatever, these rules don't exist. It's never stated. So it's literally just our interpretation of the story. And you know, I would even say, oh, well, you know, plot, if it's just plot that you can't use power scaling, then, you know, death of the author, because once you make a story, it's up to the interpretation of the people reading it to determine how it should work, not the author. It's no longer the author's interpretation. It's the viewer's interpretation of the story. And there are many examples of this, like in Death Note, there was the final scene, there's a final battle where one of the characters might have cheated to win. This is just a theory, and the author was just like, if that's possible, but I'm gonna leave it to your interpretation, right? That's death of the author. However, in this case, it's not even death of the author, because it's like the whole series, the author himself, guides, everything says it does matter. So the only thing that doesn't matter is this fandom interpretation of the negative stigma that power scaling creates in their opinion. However, their opinions fall under Hitchin's razor because it has no evidence. And especially Occam's razor, because when I say power scaling matters, I have a mountain of evidence why, but when you claim it doesn't, it mainly comes down to, but my feelings though. So, that's all I really need to say. I hope you guys enjoyed the rant. This rant was important. I know we're gonna get a lot of dislikes.
Oh yeah, that's salt though, dude.
I know a lot of people are gonna be salty. Yeah, I mean, I love salt on my chips, man. What can I say? But this was necessary because people are starting to target our community, especially like the contrarian community. I have no respect for these pseudo-intellectual contrarians that have no presence. They don't want to fight or prove their opinion at all. Why do I just sit down and take that? That just make me a cuck. if I just sat there and took it, I'd be an actual cuck, or I'd be like Chuck over here. I ain't trying to do that.
Clearly my name's supposed to be ironic because I've actually fucking like told these guys, hey, debate me on this, and they just either refuse or they just ignore. They say, oh, I didn't see your message.
Dude, even the actual cuck Chuck, even he has more balls. All right.
Think of like the Dragon Ball community, or you know, comics or whatever, right? We know we're one big community, right? And then like we're all cavemen, and Seth and I, you know, we discover fire, right, on our, you know, ventures. You know, we see that lightning strikes dry leaves and boom, we get fire. And then we try to think of ways to make it work to get the fire again. And once we get the fire and try to introduce it to the tribe, they're like, how dare you? Like, how dare you change your lifestyle? How dare you like bring us new
you burn the witches,
right? It's like we're getting attacked for like try to bring something new to the table instead of you know, doing reviews, you know, like 30 other channels do, or you know, shit like
things that are actually detrimental to the community in many ways, especially reacting channels and you know, Mr. Tracer.
Yeah, but I mean, if you have anything that you know, you like to say against this, go ahead and debate us on Discord. I'm pretty sure the links will be down below or somewhere in the video. So yeah, instead of talking shit, you know, being a little dog, you know, that's like, you know, basically bargain at each other.
Yeah,
through
they
an
like
open gate, right? Like they're
they
barking at each
like
other. They're trying to get in. They're trying to get at each other, and then the gate opens, and they're still barking outside the gate. That is what they're doing. So yeah, debate us, or shut the fuck up. Thank you.
It sounds like they're trying to like whittle down our credibility without actually directly confronting us. And like I said, it's just pussy shit. I have no respect for it. Anyways, guys, hope you enjoyed the video. Be sure to subscribe to this cuck over here that has more balls than a lot of these low testosterone amigos in our community. And other than that, till next time.
Yeah, peace out, thotties.